On Sunday, we participated in the sharing of a gift, but what we were actually doing was undertaking a scientific experiment. In the instructions, it was said, sit with your partner and do an eye-to-eye meditation until you reach the point where you lose your sense of self. At that point, close your eyes and touch the object of your concentration, and then allow whatever arises to come forth without any impediment or interference of mind. And if your mind comes in, close your eyes again and go back to that state. So if we translate that into scientific terms, we recognize that through concentration and focus, we arrive at that state where we lose our sense of self. In that state, we are in a state of Satchitananda, existence, knowledge, and bliss, where all the three levels of life are together and integrated in that presence and in that concentration. And from that, we can experience that something arises. And in that something, we can know that whether it be a touch or words or meeting of the eyes, something is being imparted into life. So we get an answer to that question. What is our relationship with life now? But therein lies an enigma, because in this state of Satchitananda, there is no self and other than self. So what is it that's happening here? So we're going to play with this a while, and we did this on Tuesday, so we're going to mess with our heads a little bit. No, there's that story told in another version where there was a woodchopper walking down the road, and he had a heavy load of wood on his back that he'd gathered. And as he was walking, the rope that was tying the wood broke, and all his wood fell off his back on the road. Well, he was tired and sweating and all, but as it happened, there was a traveller coming the other way, and the traveller said, do you want me to help you? The man said, yes, please. And the traveller said, well, what will you give me if I help you? And the man said, I can give you nothing. So the traveller got to and helped him gather up the wood, and they tied it and put it back on the back of the wood chopper, and the traveller said, well, now, give me my nothing. And the woodchopper said, but I told you I can give you nothing. So they got into a very big fight about it. So of course they had to go to the magistrate. So as it happened, the magistrate was Mullah Nasruddin. So he sums up the situation, and he says to the traveller, he says, you see that carpet over there? He said, go and lift it up the corner. So the man lifts up the corner, and the mullah says, well, what do you see? And the traveller said, nothing. He said, well, that's your payment, take it and off with you, go. Then there was a young man who'd been with a Sufi master for quite a number of years, and this Sufi master and the seeker were out walking on the road one day, and the seeker said to the Sufi master, oh master, I'm so glad for the moment when I decided to come to be at your feet and learn your teachings. And the Sufi master turned to him and said, decision, for good or for ill, is something that you do not know about because you have not experienced it. You cannot know until you have had that experience. To know with your mind and think that you've made a good decision or a bad decision. So the seeker shook his head and said, "But Master, I don't understand what is the implications of what you're saying here." So the Master said, wait, I'll demonstrate to you. So they hadn't gone down the road too far when they saw a shepherd in the field with his flock, and his sheepdog was running around. And the Master turned to the seeker and said, "I will count to 5, and that shepherd will throw a stick to his dog 3 times. So the Master counted to 5, and sure enough, when he'd finished counting to 5, the shepherd threw 3 sticks to his dog. And then the Master said to the seeker, "And now I will count to 3, and he will sit down under that tree for a rest." Well, by this time the seeker was quite amazed, and he said to the Master, "Oh, Master, can you make him raise his arms?" And in just a second, the shepherd raised his arms towards the heavens. And so the Master said, "Now, let's go and speak to the shepherd." So after they went over to the shepherd, and they had their normal salutations, the Master said to the shepherd, "Why did you throw those 3 sticks to the dog?" And the shepherd said, "Well, I just thought that I would test him to see if he would go for 3 sticks instead of 1. And then the Master said, "Well, was that your decision?" And the shepherd said, "Well, of course, there was no one around to tell me or show me. It was what I decided to do." And then the Master said, "Well, then you went and sat down under the tree. Why did you go and sit down under the tree?" And the shepherd said, "Well, I just decided that I would sit down and have a rest from the hot sun." And the Master said, "Well, was that your decision? Did anyone tell you to do it?" And he said, "No, of course not. There was no one around to tell me to go and sit under the tree. I just decided I needed a rest." And then the Master said, "Well, then you raised your hands to the heavens. Why did you do that? And what made you do that?" And the man said, "Well, I just suddenly decided that I was being lazy sitting here, and I raised my arms to the heaven to say that there's a greater power here at work, and that I better get up off my ass and do something." So the Master said, "Well, was that your decision? Did you decide?" "Well, nobody told me to do that," said the shepherd. So then the Master turned around to the young seeker who was standing beside him, and he said, "You see, here we have an enigma. You are asking and telling me that you were so grateful that you had made the decision to come to me for my teachings and my guidance. So what is it that you have observed here? What is it relative to your thinking that you made decisions that is operating here?" This seeker kept silent. But to tell this story is, of course, to ask the question, what is the answer to this enigma? What is it that happens when we're in a state of Satchitananda, when we have ostensibly our self obliterated in that intensity, in that focus, a loss of sense of self, and yet there is something there that evokes, brings a response, which was elicited in our experiment in giving our gift by the touch. How is it that it comes together for us? What then is our relationship to life? Can we live in a state of Satchitananda, in a state of selflessness, where a gift is always being imparted? Always. Because something, because of life, whatever that reality is evoking a response from whatever it is that is there when we're in that state of selflessness, Satchitananda. What is it? What is it relative to this story and the stories that were told the other day? We're not a puppet on a string. And it's to do with that question, what is our relationship with life? When we're in a conditioned state, we can see it in people out there all the time, just like the emails I've been getting over the last few days. If that is colored with negativity or hate, what is it that happens for us? What is it that's projected onto life then? We know that very well. We can feel it from people. Fear, rejection, doubt. But what is it about this state of Satchitananda, selflessness, absence of the conditioning or veils or walls, that allows naturally a response that is always, always a gift to life, whether it be that object or the world at large? The clue is in this story. The clue is in this story. What does the Sufi master represent in this story?
Is one with life.
Is one with life.
Is just one.
Yes. So what is the experience we have? What was the experience that we had on Sunday, when in that state of Satchitananda, in touch with that being in front of us, and outflow the words?
There's no separation.
Yes. None. What is it? It's a very sublime question now, isn't it? And we need to find the answer. But then, what about this other story, lifting up the rug and there's nothing there? There we have the enigma. That's what we have to deal with. That's why stories are told. Isn't it so? Aren't you weaving stories? When you speak to that person, when you relate to that animal, whatever it might be. It's a story, isn't it? You're not telling them what to do in that situation in front of that person. You are not telling them what to do. but through what you were imparting, something was happening in them. Isn't it great fun? Don't you love it? That's why they call it the Maya, the play, the divine play. That's why we call it the divine play. And it is. And it's awesome.
So at the end of the pack we will know which comes first, the chicken or the egg.
You bet. You bet.
At the moment that's what it's like.
Lift the rug.
Lift your own, find your own.
Well, at least he got it. At least he got it, damn it.